welcome to Gotham Outsiders, our very special interview podcast this week. With me, as always, is my co-host TJ.
Woo woo! Hello, everyone. And as always on these special episodes, we have a very special guest with us. Who is it today, Chris?
We have the writer of Jon Kent's Superman and Nightwing stories for DC Comics, as well as stories like Fence from Boom Studios and novels such as Captive Prince and Dark Rise. That's right, we have CS Pacat.
Hi guys, I'm so excited to be on the podcast. I'm really looking forward to today.
Yes. Oh my goodness. We love your writing so much. We've been so excited.
Yes, I've been like an admirer for so long. I remember I was probably a teenager when Captive Prince first got published, and it was like a huge book on Tumblr at the time, and just everyone talking about it. So, and then since then, just something will come out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love Fence, and then I realize, oh my gosh, it's the same person that did Captive Prince, and every time.
Your range is so incredible that I exactly like TJ saying, I'll be reading something, and I'm like, this is brilliant. Who wrote this? Oh, the Fence writer wrote this.
I was about to say Fence could not be more different to Captive Prince.
Right.
For sure. I love that though.
Well, now that we have buttered you up a little bit, we're gonna lead with an easy question. This is
an icebreaker.
An icebreaker. Thank you. That's what I was thinking. So who, in your opinion, since we're in the DC universe right now, is the best Bat detective, or just the best detective in general in the DC universe?
Well, will I get killed if I don't say Batman?
No.
No, most of us don't say Batman.
Really?
We would say Tim Drake, because we love Tim Drake.
We do love Tim Drake.
No problem.
Well, I've had the opportunity to briefly write Nightwing and explore a little bit of his detective capabilities. So I'm going to say Dick Grayson.
Bold contender.
Yeah, I feel as long as you don't say Batman, then it's a good answer.
Well, who's the most common answer? Is it Tim that people say?
Yes. Yeah, I think
and people just know we love him, so we're very vocal about that online. Chris has convinced me, but Dick Grayson, it's a great answer.
It is a great answer.
You can stay.
I can stay. Excellent. All right.
Stay. Yeah, we like you. We like you even more now.
Yes. So what would you say is your favorite corner of the DC universe? Titles, characters that mean a lot to you, you grew up with, or you just really love?
So I grew up, this is my DC origin story. I grew up when I was a kid in primary school. I went to a really rough and tumble kind of poor kids primary school. And we all used to pool our money that we found every week to buy the Batman comic. And we had a pecking order in the playground. So the bullies got to read the comic first, and then it would trickle down to the rest of us. And that was the era that was the death of Robin. I guess that ages me. But that was also on my playground, the death of innocence, because none of us had ever read death before. And I just have got a really strong memory of the two bullies that used to beat me and my friends up, just crying under the swinging bars because of what had happened to Robin that week. And so I grew up loving the Batverse. And it was only when I got a little bit older, sort of in my tweens and teens, that I discovered the superheroes that would grow to become my favorites, which would be Superman and Wonder Woman, because I just love paragons. And I think that they really epitomize the peak of what a hero can be, to me anyway, something to really aspire to. Except, yes, I've since learned that they're the hardest heroes to write.
I imagine. Yeah.
I see why everyone terms them grimdark all the time, because it's just so much easier than writing them as a bright shining beacon. But yeah, so that's sort of my starting point.
Yeah.
I love that.
What about the two of you? Who was your original heroes?
Oh, Batman was mine.
Yeah.
Honestly.
For DC, yeah, I don't know. Like Batman, obviously, because of the Tim Burton movies and the Schumacher movies when I was a
Yes.
kid, but also I loved the Teen Titans animated show as a kid. So
Right.
probably a tie between those.
I watched the Super Friends as a kid, so I liked the whole Justice League, but very goofy versions of it.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm just thinking about those bullies.
Yeah.
You gotta be going. Anyway, forget those bullies. So correct me if I'm mistaken, but your first novel, Captive Prince, started out on LiveJournal, right?
That's right. Yeah, it
That's what I
did.
thought. I didn't even research it. I just was like, you know what? I think I remember it being on LiveJournal. Let me
Yeah.
test my memory.
So Captain Prince is like this crazy epic gay fantasy romance. And like back when I was writing it back in the early 2010s, there was not really anything like it on commercial bookshelves, not published by big mainstream publishers. And so I knew that that was something that I wanted to write, but there was no concept in my mind that it could be a published book because those types of books just didn't exist. So, but where I had seen that kind of fiction happening was online. There was a whole community of people that were queering straight stories, which was like the fan fiction community. There was a ton of queer web comics, and like the few of us that were like just trying to find any queer stories like whatsoever, and were finding them in some of the Japanese manga that had LGBT characters in the 90s were all congregating online. So it felt like online was the place that you could safely be gay.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's really
Back
true.
in the day, in real life, that was not quite the case. And so I just assumed, well, this is online fiction, and I started to write it on LiveJournal. And then it sort of it took on a virality, I suppose. And I got lots of requests from readers for paperback versions. Actually, at around that time, I tried my best to get it published. I approached, I think, over 100 publishers and agents. I think the kindest response that I received at that time is, we just don't think there's a market for this book.
Little do they know.
Little do they know, yeah. But I think, if something is new, then its marketing potential is zero, or at least question mark. And at the end of the day, publishers are like venture capitalists of books. So they're taking a bet on something that they think will sell. But then I was lucky enough that the self-published copy of Captive Prince did well enough to start hitting some lists. And after that, I was approached by an agent, and the book ended up on selling to Penguin Random House. So just a very sort of strange way to become published. But I think proof that the internet really did open up that world of publication to more diverse voices, and just like and diverse in every way, different types of authors, different types of stories. I think it's a really vibrant and amazing creative space.
I love that you said all that. One of the things I study is like accessible media, and I love that. That's awesome.
Yes.
I had to know, because you're talking about accessible online media. Did you ever write fan fiction?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote a ton of fan fiction, but none of my fan fiction, I think I had like 2 readers, and they were probably quite reluctant readers. I wrote in very obscure fandoms, and I used to write these really angsty but kind of pure character vignettes.
I love that.
Read. No, people don't want to read that. And so, but I did write, yeah. So obscure Japanese fandoms, and then what else was I writing? I think, I wrote Interview with a Vampire fan fiction before.
Oh my God.
Now's the time for that. That show.
Yeah,
that show's amazing.
Yeah. For real.
I just wanted to say, like, I remember I was working in a bookstore in like 2015, especially how Chris and I met. And I remember I was kind of like the gay employee. It was a very small bookstore. And I remember this older gentleman came in, and he specifically wanted like gay romance books. And, we had to be like, we don't have any. But I specifically told him, hey, you want to check out Captain Prince though, because that's like the one I know of, and I hear it's very good. So I remember getting this man like ordering it for him, and it was like
Oh my
the
gosh,
only
thank you so
option.
much for the recommendation.
Yeah, like, it's so funny to think about how it was like the first big one back then, at least like mainstream-ish, I would say.
Yeah, it was actually the first gay romance that was published by a Big Five imprint.
That's
Yeah,
incredible.
it's amazing. And he wanted
Yeah,
fantasy, I remember.
it's amazing to me, or like what is amazing to me is just like how far things have come in the last 10 years. Just the explosion of LGBT content has been really beautiful. We're kind of in a golden age. It's really beautiful time
It is.
And you were leading the charge. Like,
Yeah, you are.
we have the evidence. Chris, you want to hit us off with the next one?
So you've written other comics like Fence and various novels as well. How did you end up writing for DC? What was that journey like?
I guess I wrote for Fence first. So Fence is published by Boom Studios, and that is I guess it's like a sports anime as a Western comic, is how I would describe it, about competitive fencing set at an all-boys school.
It's so good.
And I'm ashamed to admit that the way that came about was actually an editor from Boom Studios approached me about the Captive Prince rights, which were not available at that time. And then just happened to say in the email, oh, if you ever have any other ideas, let me know. And I wrote back and I said, oh, I've got this amazing idea for a comic that I think would be perfect for Boom, and I'd love to pitch it to you. Can I send you the pitch on Friday? She said, yes. And then I immediately called all my friends, like Avengers Assemble, and I said, I have to come up with an idea for a comic.
That's amazing. I love that.
And I just love that it's so different. Like, it might not have been what they were expecting, but just as good.
Yeah, and I guess that was an amazing learning experience, both for me and the artist, who it was her first time to draw sequentials, and it was my first time writing comics. So we had a blast learning together. And then getting to write at DC for the first time was an opportunity that was given to me by the writer Tom Taylor. So he and I are both from Melbourne. And he'd been sort of pestering me to try to try out something for DC, pitch something, for a while. But I was so nervous to do that. I felt like just that huge pressure of the legacy. I was so intimidated. I had so much imposter syndrome. And then, but then, I had the opportunity to kind of try a few little shorts here and there. And that's what I'd done. I think the first one that I did was for, was a short at the, in the Dark Knights of Steel universe.
Yes, I love that series.
Yeah,
it's so good, isn't it? It's so good. I just think Tom is an amazing writer, and like watching him behind the scenes is quite incredible as well, because he truly is just like a natural genius. He can sit down and it just comes.
And he's one of my faves.
Yeah, and an amazing mentor, and sort of just generally good. Like, he really does like to lift up other artists and people behind the scenes as well. He's a really good guy.
The representation in his titles is incredible. There's Pacat up here and then Tom Taylor right under,
Well, I would really put that the other way around, but yeah, okay.
Okay, you're equal levels of great.
I'll take that as a huge compliment. But yeah, and Dark Knights of Steel, like, it is an AU at the end of the day, it's like it's Elseworlds, and even though I did feel huge pressure because it was some legacy characters like Batman and Bane were the two that I was writing, it was still an Elseworlds story, and it didn't have that full crushing anxiety of writing in the main timeline, which
like all that
history
history
in my next time around. But yeah, like lots of fun, and it's been a really amazing opportunity so far.
Yeah,
and that
kind of a dream, actually, because I was such a fan when I was a kid.
Yeah. And that you mentioned the other shorts too, like that kind of led into you writing. I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong again, like you did the Jon Kent Superman story in Lazarus Planet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Loved that. So I wanted to ask about Jon specifically because you keep coming back to Jon. What about his character appeals to you? And maybe, I guess this probably ties into how you feel about Superman in general, but specifically about Jon.
Well, I think I mentioned to you that, you know, Superman and Wonder Woman are my two favorite DC heroes. And I just love a paragon. I want to aspire to a hero. And I think it's really important that, you know, like I can enjoy grimdark and I can enjoy dystopias and anti-heroes, and they're a lot of fun and they can create very exciting story opportunities. But if every story is a dystopia, then we never believe things can be better than they are. We only think they can be worse. And so there's no incentive for change, you know, or to progress. And so I really love the idea that there's these heroes that can teach us to be better than ourselves. I think that's like the purpose of a hero at the end of the day. And so yeah, I like probably so many in the LGBTQ community, just the feelings that I had when the Jon Kent is bi reveal happened in the main continuity was just like, I felt so included. I felt like a little part of myself that, you know, I could be a hero too, you know, that kind of feeling. Like it's kind of a childish feeling in a way, but I really genuinely had it. I'd sort of known it was, I'd known it was in the pipeline just because I do work with Tom some days. And so I'd had that little teaser that it was coming. And even then I was just unprepared for how I'd feel when I actually saw it on the front cover of the comic. And so I think, you know, it's my favorite hero and gay as well. So it just has a huge amount of meaning to me. And then, yeah, I guess when I had that opportunity to write on Lazarus Planet, even though it was only a short, you know, I thought a lot about what do I, as a queer reader, want to see a hero that represents me sort of do and have. And there were a lot of answers. I only had a short to work with. So what I actually chose was I just wanted to see them have a kind of exciting, like just the kind of same power fantasy and rogues gallery that a straight hero has, you know. I thought about some of my favorite of the dynamics and interplay that some of the straight heroes have, and I really gravitated towards Batman and Catwoman as one of the like power couples of DC. And I started to think about how interesting if Superman had a Catwoman-esque character, you know, someone that was a little bit more morally ambiguous, but not wholly bad, someone that is kind of a temptation to the dark side, but of course Superman would never go there. But what does it mean that the person exists, sort of pulling them across
Would he not go there? I don't know. I kind of want him to. Just once.
What do you think?
I don't know. I have a whole question later where I'm like, I just wanted to really talk about Ash because I love him.
Do you want to just skip to that one? Because
let's skip to that. So you're kind of touching on what I was going to ask, and like, I love Ash so much. I think he's so much fun. The fact that he is like the Catwoman to Batman for Jon, I love that. So I just wanted to ask about the origin of that character. I think you kind of touched on that, but like, I don't know. Do you? So this is a silly kind of fandom-ish question. Do you have like a Jon Ash agenda? Like, would you like to see them happen? Like, would you write that, or are you like a Jon J true believer?
Am I a Jon? Yeah, I guess what I like about Ash, or the dynamic that I like that he brings, is that kind of like, hey, good boy, want to be bad?
Yes.
Very
That's
hot.
the dynamic.
Like, why not both?
Why not both?
Say,
Yeah.
John has two hands.
Yes. See? Yeah. So I guess you can't tell us officially, but like, can we expect to see Ash anytime soon? Like, do you think we'll see him at some point?
I would love to write him again, or write him more. I do think that he does bring that interesting dynamic into the universe.
Yes.
And I, apart from a very, very few exceptions, I'd never really like, just narratively, I never really liked the superhero settles down with their one true love and gets married. I just find the marriage is just a narrative dead end. So I'm more of a chaos gremlin. I like to mix things up.
Yes. And like,
Same.
I'm a big fan of like shipping something, and then once it happens, sometimes it doesn't live up to the hype. Like, we talk about Tim Khan a lot on this podcast now. If that ship ever happens, like, you know, it might not live up to it. But like, I feel like with this pairing with John and Ash, that's almost the point, is like, I never expect them to like settle down together, but I want Ash to be around and be tempting him and like flirting with him.
The deliciousness is, for many of these romance couples, is a will they, won't they?
Right.
And yeah, I think again, this probably really dates me, but I feel like the huge example of this was always Mulder and Scully from the X-Files.
Mulder and Scully.
It was so delicious when they were will they, won't they, and then as soon as they did, the excitement was kind of lost.
Yeah, it's a great example. So yeah, I would love to see Ash be like a supporting character in the ongoing narrative. I'm rooting for it. So
noted.
So you
I'm like, Tom Taylor, bring him back.
Yeah.
So speaking of Tom Taylor, you also have some stories coming out of Nightwing right now. Obviously, you have Nightwing and Jon working together. What is it about those as a duo that you like? What speaks to you there?
I think I really like. I'm really interested in the way that the past can leave its fingerprints on us. So I'm really interested. Like, a lot of my stories will have sort of like lingering, like things that happen in someone's childhood that really forms them. And I think, like, you know, that saying, that which does not kill us makes us stranger.
Yes.
I really like when events of the past just leave their impact on people, and sometimes forms them into strange shapes. So with Nightwing and Jon Kent, like, I find it really fascinating they have two such different, like, dad figures. You know, one, the most wholesome of all dads, like the super dad, and the other was Batman.
Bat dad.
And I don't know what Batman was like at parent-teacher interviews, but he probably wasn't the same as Clark Kent was. And so they've each been formed by a hero into a hero in like these different ways. So I find that really interesting. And then I like Nightwing as a mentor a lot. I think he is a natural leader. And I think he kind of grew beyond Batman in his abilities in that way. I think he's got the potential. I hope this is not heresy, but I think he has the potential to be a better leader than Batman. Because
we agree.
Hard agree. He already is.
Yeah.
We love Batman, but in that we believe he's kind of a wonderful fuck up, to be clear. Like,
he surrounds himself with characters we like more.
Yes, true.
That's his true superpower.
Yeah, and I wonder if, I mean, I don't necessarily, I can't necessarily pinpoint this anywhere in canon, but when I think about Nightwing, I really wonder, like, is part of why you're so good at being a mentor because you know what you needed as a mentor and didn't always receive it. And so And like that's the aspect of him that I like to diving into. And I think there's like little shades of that, at least in the relationship that I was building between him and Jon.
I feel like you just like with one sentence launched 1,000 fanfics that people are out there right now.
I think that's like a theme in your story, because I've been reading it as it comes out on DC Infinite, and like I don't want to give spoilers, but like something happens where Nightwing like has a flashback. Am I making this up? Okay. And then he's like, no, I need to do better. And he teaches Jon. I really liked that.
Yeah. And then like Jon is really interesting to me because of I know just from, I usually don't read a lot of comments online, but before I started to write like Jon and Nightwing, I wanted to get a sense not just of what I felt about the characters, but also of how like they're received by the community. And I did notice that like the time jump of Jon, or like the age jump or whatever, was like very polarizing. Like some people really loved it and some people did not. Like some people just preferred like Superboy. But I found the gap very fascinating. Like, what does it mean to have these developmental years like robbed from you, and what impact does that leave on a character? To me, that is the most, like, one of the most interesting parts of him as a character, and I think like it's there to be explored in the future. It's like a very traumatic event, and even this is just this is not really a good analogy at all, but I lived in Japan for about 6 or 7 years, and I remember that when I came back, there's just like a slice of the 2000s Western pop culture that I just cannot reference and have no idea about. It's like this weird knowledge gap. And he would have that, but not only about pop culture, but really about everything. Like, what does it mean to spend your adolescence in like a volcano? That's really intense. So he's a very intriguing character to me as well. And I'm not sure he would necessarily share his trauma with like any Tom, Dick, or Harry. But I think, it's there in the future to be plumbed.
Yeah.
I felt very called out when you mentioned people preferring Superboy.
Superboy.
Yeah, I was one of those people that was like, Jon's older, like he's kind of stepping on Connor's toes now because they're around the same age.
Yeah, that's true.
But that was like before the Tom Taylor run, and like that's one of my favorite titles now. And like I think at one point you called Jon like a bicon, like I had to pull up that receipt. Like true. And
that was actually Tom's word for him, was bicon.
Oh,
okay.
I'm quoting Tom.
I love that.
Yeah.
Some people, like when Robin came out, people were like, well, it's not the original Robin. And I feel like there was some of that with Jon, where it was like Superman's bi, but then you had people being like, well, it's not the Superman. But like, I kind of like that we get our own Superman. Like, I don't know. Like, yes, they could have easily been like, oh, Clark's bi, but like, I don't know. Jon just stands for so much stuff that is different and is like for our generation type thing. And I really love that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the power of the symbol is still there, which was interesting. Yes. I found some of the backlash really funny. Like there was a whole segment of the internet that exactly did as you described. They're like, but Superman cannot be gay or bi. And then someone would be like, oh, it's actually his son. And they'd be like, okay, I'll allow it.
Still mad, but
yes.
Whereas me, I'll take what I can get. I'm happy. I'm easy to please.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna pivot away from the superhero stuff for a second. And talk about Fence, because Chris and I are both big Fence fans. So we kind of wanted to put it in conversation with your work for DC. So like in general, like what is the writing difference between like Fence and DC? What are the different challenges for both, and just how they differ or how they're similar?
Yeah, well, as I kind of said, like I grew up, my earliest reading of comics was DC Comics. And that was a kid and into my early teens. And then as soon as I discovered the internet, And I realized that like there was a form of comics that had queer characters in it, but this is like the late 80s, early 90s, and there was no really Western comics that had like any LGBT representation at that time, or certainly not within superhero comics. But in manga, I found those characters. And as soon as that happened, I completely pivoted. So I was just consuming manga. I like learned Japanese. I ended up going to live over there.
Wow.
And that was where I was probably that was where I was reading the most in comics. And so I had a really sort of natural instinct for manga because it was what I was reading. When I pitched Fence, it was sort of as like can we bring over some of what I think is the best qualities of manga into a Western comic format? I think and I love sports comics. I just love things like Haikyuu and like back in the day it was Hikaru no Go and Prince of Tennis and like all these comics about like a plucky team of unlikely sports heroes that are fighting to win the state championships. And then I used to fence when I was in high school and at university. Ooh. So, but I think what manga can do that I think one of the main differences in general, like this is a generalization, obviously, but between manga and Western comics is like Western comics are a lot more visually literal. Like what you see is what is happening. Whereas manga is a lot more, what's on the page is just a signifier of what's happening. And so, characters will morph in size and shape depending on if they're angry or be cute or things. Yeah. Even the way the characters are designed, like they're not trying to be realism. They're not trying to look like real humans with real human bodies or faces or eyes or anything like that. And then there's, of course, in manga also this whole language of visual like notation that they will use to like denote emotion or what have you that is not visually literal. Very often characters will be there's a joke like in the script like time of day white because there's no background. It's just white space. And they might draw one establishing shot of like a road or something so you know where you are, but then everything else plays out much more in the theater of the mind. Whereas Western comics often, that visual reference is what you're going by. So I think Fence skews much more, and then I think like Japanese comics are very good at kind of like a language of high archetypes of characters where they really sometimes almost to a cynical degree know the archetypes that readers will love. So, there will be the asshole with the heart of gold or the serious character that wears glasses but one day takes them off. Or
you just described Ash and Jay.
Exactly. And so that was the kind of stuff that that I wanted to bring into Fence, like all that visual playfulness, the high archetypes, and then that also the sports comic element of stuff, which there still isn't really as popular in Western comics as it is in Japan in manga.
Did you read Check Please?
I did read Check Please.
I thought probably.
Oh, those are my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That and Fence, top two.
Yeah. Top two.
Yeah. I feel like Check Please was a little bit of proof of concept to me. Because it was before Fence, it was the first kind of queer Western sports comic that there was. I think at the time that I started writing Fence, it was still an online web comic. So I was following it as like a web serial. And I was just kind of like, you can do that?
Yay,
So
I love that.
you need someone, a trailblazer to open up the space of possibility. I was like, right, yeah, you can just write a
Well,
gay
you know what? Check Please started out very similarly to you and Captive Prince, because I think it was on Tumblr. It was getting posted like a couple pictures a month or week, and then it just spiraled and got so popular, and then a physical edition. Like, I'm sensing a trend here.
Only path probably back in those days. Like, I'm sure that you could very easily pitch a queer sports comic to a publisher now and get it up if you had a good enough pitch. You just get it published. But back then, no way, it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
Yeah.
But, it had to be a webcomic. It was the only place that it would have found an audience and success. And then she kind of was able to take that and grow it, build it into a commercial series, which I really respect and relate to in some ways.
Yeah, definitely. No, you have very similar stories for sure. More Fence arrives this June. That's going to be very, very soon, possibly even when we publish this episode. Could you give us any teases, any details we could expect, like a resolution to that slow burn will they, won't they, that's been killing me for years? No pressure.
So what can I possibly say that isn't a spoiler? I will say that this is an issue where things do go to the next level for several of our characters. So I think you will see a significant step in the slow burn between our main heroes. And a few of the other characters are going to be challenged or confronted with something that will change things for them as well. I think we'll also get a little bit more of a glimpse into the relationships between Seiji and Jesse, and then how Nicholas kind of fits in and relates to all of that as well. So I hope.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yes. And I have to ask, it's back to monthly, right?
Yes, that's right. So, and we're really excited to return to that format. Nice. Probably the other thing that I should shout out for the upcoming Fence volume is like Johanna's art has just evolved to the next level. Art in the volume is so good. Like every time I would get a page back, I'd just be sort of like, we're all on an email chain, and every time Johanna posts art into the chain, we're all dying in the email chain. So
can't wait.
No, I love their art so much. Like, I'm so glad that you've kept the same artist on the whole entire run, because so many comics change in between volumes, and like that art style is just so important to the Fence, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, she and I are co-creators on the comic, so her art really is half of everything. She those characters wouldn't be who they were without her character design and without everything that she brings. Like the artist in so many ways is like not just the artist, but also the actor, like playing the scene out, interpreting everything, and a script's not alive until they do their work on it. So
I want to ask a question that I'm coming up with it in the spur of the moment. So I know there was a couple of Fence prose novels that came out. Like I didn't read them yet. I really want to. I just haven't got around to it. But like I was just curious. You did read it?
Immediately.
Oh, I love that you read them. I didn't know that. So like how involved in those are you? Like I know they're supposed to be like canon. Like are they canon? Like are you like involved with that narrative at all?
Yeah. So first of all, the author of those novels, Ceary Brennan, she's like she's like one of my heroes. Like I love her writing so much. I really, if there's anyone listening that's not familiar with her work, she's but is interested in sort of queer fiction. She wrote an absolutely amazing bi protagonist sort of magic school novel called In Other Lands, which is like it's one of my favorite young adult novels in existence. It's so funny, it's got so much heart. It's next level. So I was so thrilled when Little Brown licensed the novel. That's the publisher. And they said, do you have any suggestions of who you would like to write on it? I, in a million years, never thought Sarah would write on it, but I kept saying to them, I want someone exactly like Sarah Reesman to write on it. And then they managed to, she had sort of room in her schedule, and they managed to entice her to do it. So we tried a lot about things, both beforehand, and did a lot of the kind of brainstorming and plotting together. So I was very involved in that side of things. But I think like she has just talent beyond anything I could do. So I do think that she captures these moments and these feels that that I was just were revelations to me when I read them, and have gone on to influence the main comic because they were just so good. So yeah, I would say fairly involved. And then how canon are they? I would say they're like 80% canon.
80%. Hey, whatever. I'll take it.
I love her writing too. So, did you read Demon's Lexicon? I have to know because it's one of
I have read every book she has written.
that was
I
like
read
my
her
first
the Cassandra
fandom.
Clare like co-authored stuff. I've been meaning to read like a novel by her for like 10
Classic.
years.
Oh, you should read
Lexicon was
another
like
one.
my
I
OG
know.
fandom when I was very young. So
Really? Oh my gosh. Who was your favorite character from Demon's Lexicon? Nick?
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved them all, but yeah, definitely.
I have that book on my shelf. I need to read
You
it.
gotta read it. You need to do it. I'm gonna bully you into it. Speaking
Please.
of, everything you've written has been such a different genre from your like young adult fantasy, your adult romance, sports comics, and DC superheroes. How do you decide what your next project will be?
I do. So I'm not someone who has a lot of ideas. I used to think I'm not a writer because I'm not overflowing with ideas. I do have friends who it's like they're connected to some kind of imaginative slipstream and they're just bubbling with new ideas all the time. I think like Tom Taylor's a bit like that. He can just have a genius idea 10 before breakfast, you know? Whereas for me, I have to do a lot of brainstorming and imaginative work to kind of come up with something. And I always tell people, like, you know, if there's something in writing that you're not good at, that's fine. I'm not that good at ideas, but you just learn tools and skills to do the work to make up for lack of like native ability. But so because I'm not a froth with concepts, what I do is a very specific activity where I think about, you know, the cliche of write what you want to read,
Yes.
but I really do it. So I will sit down and I imagine myself walking into a bookstore or a comic store or a library. And I think like there's always something that you're looking for and never finding when you go in there, right? You're on that, there's something and you're never exactly finding it. And the reason that you're not so finding it is because it doesn't exist in the bookstore. It only exists within you. And so I think about like, well, what is it? And you'll know some things about it. Like you'll know probably the genre, you might know how you want it to make you feel. And then I will do this exercise where I'll just ask myself questions about it and just try and tease it out as much as I possibly can, and then do the brainstorming work to kind of move on from there. And I think it's probably because I read and, you know, quite widely that then when I do that activity, I do come up with these such like diverse books and comics. But yeah, that's always my starting point.
I love that. I gotta say, I'm like squeezing this in here. I just read Darker Eyes and I'm obsessed.
Oh my god.
Absolutely love it. And I've just been recommending it to everybody.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. No spoilers, but did you guess the ending?
No, of course not.
I don't think I did either. I think like a second before it happened. Like that was a good one.
It's so good. Oh, I love it.
That was a book I book talked to all my local high school gay straight alliances last year. Like I go in and talk about a few books every year, and that was one of them. And I always led with, who likes Timothy Chalamet? Be like, all right, here's a book where the guy on the cover kind of looks like him. And by the way, it's amazing and it's fantasy. But that was like my icebreaker.
Oh, that is such a good pitch. I'm going to remember that. And it made
Yeah, I loved it. It was very good. So what comics or novels have you been enjoying in general? Can you give our listeners any good recommendations?
So I have recently read, so speaking of Sarah Rees Brennan, I hope this is not a cheat, but I was lucky to read the manuscript of her new book that's coming out. It will be her first adult fantasy. I don't even know if the title has been revealed yet, but it is it's by far her best book. It's sort of like a massive level jump above everything else that she's done before. And I was on a writing retreat with about 30 other writers when I read the manuscript, and I was so blown away by the ending. I closed my laptop and I just said aloud, "Oh my God, that's the best fantasy novel I've read in the last 10 years." And then I realized I did that in front of 30 writers whose books I had already read. And then I was like, "Oh, sorry,
Oh my God, I can't wait. I cannot wait.
So yeah, I'm really loving that. And then in terms of comics, look, this is an oldie but a goodie. But this is like this is by no means a new comic, but I've really returned to a teen favorite manga series of mine, Berserk. And I've never reread that as an adult. And I'm reading it for the first time, and it's quite a revelation. It's very dark, sort of hard, dark fantasy, even horror gore series, but I'm really loving it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I wanted to say earlier, you mentioned only having, quote, one idea for what you write, but I'm like, you know what? The only idea I need when I pick something up is it's gay. That's all I need. That one idea. Anyway, just had to throw that out there.
Yeah. I do the thing in the bookstore where I'm like, does this book look gay, like from the cover? And then I'll turn it over.
Right. He looks like Timothy Chalamet. Is he gay though?
Gay though. Exactly. I do the same thing. I'm always like turning over the back, like, are the names both women or are they both men? And then you get like the vague ones and you're like, I don't know. So if you were able to tell any story at all in the Batman or Bat Family universe, what would it look like? Any themes, characters, or anything you want to kind of focus on?
Oh my gosh.
No pressure.
Okay, so if I could literally tell any story,
yes,
can I say 3 different things?
Yes.
All right. I would love to tell a big sort of Jon Kent heroes, like an epic Jon Kent story. I think, like, I just love that hero. That would be an absolute dream. I on a kind of more niche note, I have always wanted, every now and again, they'll do like a young adult version of like different heroes. And every time they do that, there's something very specific that I wish they were doing, and they're never doing it. And that is that I want billionaire boarding school. I want to see Bruce Wayne, Lex Luthor, and all at like some super rich exclusive boarding school together.
Ooh.
That's amazing. Oh my God.
Now I'm thinking, I'm a big Ghostmaker fan, like the rival of Bruce Wayne, and they like when they were teens training together. It's a little homoerotic. Like, give me that, but in billionaire boarding school.
That would be so
cool. And there's some really smart, like Mr. Terrific or whatever, really smart people that could be there on scholarship. There's all sorts of things you could do. Anyway, so that's kind of interest.
If you were to pitch that, there's no way they wouldn't publish that. Come on.
And then, I do love I do love the kind of really epic Elseworld stuff. I actually think Tom Taylor really pioneered or really took to its kind of showed the peak potential of what they can do. These big, I think, and what's so exciting about Elseworld is like they're not safe universes. Anyone can die, anything can happen. And I think that brings an extra level of excitement or threat to the reader. There's like that I find really, just imaginatively exciting. So like I suppose it would be a huge dream to be able to do like a big Elseworld story, but that's a pure pipe dream. But those would be the things. What about you two? What would be your what's the story you always wish they told in DC?
You were saying Elseworlds is so like free in terms of writing. Like it makes me think it's almost like fan fiction, but published. Like oh, I don't know if anyone's ever asked us this before, Chris.
I've answered this before, so I know they. And my answer is the same. I have always wanted a story in which Harley Quinn kidnaps the Bat family for the sole reason to go full therapist on them and have a family therapy session. I think it'd be hilarious.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's actually really great.
So I have my like, if I could tell any story, obviously, this is so on brand for me. Chris knows where I'm going.
I already know.
Tim Drake and Connor Kent Superboy would finally get together. We'd be a whole thing. But my like real pitch, if someone really came to me and was like, would you like to write a short story? I would want to write about Kite Man and make him like the dad to a kid who doesn't have a dad. So like he kind of lost his kid and this kid lost their parent, and they kind of like Logan the movie, but like way funnier with Kite Man.
That's really cute.
Yeah. And Colton from Gotham Academy is in my mind the kid it would be. But
yeah, that's really great.
Thank you. I'll write the fanfic one day.
There you go.
Well, we have one final silly question for you. So we always ask our guests, what is your DC Comics hill you will die on? So like an opinion that you have that's something like silly or really specific, an intense opinion about something. Like, for example, Twitter a couple of years ago was very opinionated on Batman doing or not doing that with Catwoman. Hashtag cat emoji. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, that's an example.
Pussygate.
You wrote Captive Prince. You know what I'm getting at.
I know what you're getting at. What are my hills that I would die on?
I know it's a hard question.
Well, I know that. Okay, I actually need to think about this. I'm going to get off of this podcast and be like cursing that I didn't say. I'm so opinionated in this universe. I've got so many hills that I would die on.
You can always come back for a special all hills episode.
I think
I know that puts the pressure
though. So many things that are coming to my mind are all from films and not from comics.
That's okay.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. In that case,
go for it.
I don't think that I really don't like when Batman is written as like just like full murder bat. And so, for example, in the films, I really did not enjoy that he wanted to do a preemptive strike on Superman.
Right.
I don't think an innocent person. And I don't mind that he can have sort of dark periods, but I just don't think. I think he'd have to be pushed to an extreme to actually just full out go and murder someone for no reason. So I don't really like that. And then I think by the same token, or in the same genre of peeves, I don't really like when the Paragon heroes are sort of written in a grimdark style. So I don't like grimdark Superman, and I don't like grimdark Wonder Woman or what have you. Because, well, a couple of reasons. I don't mind it in Elseworlds if that's the whole point of the story.
I was gonna say Injustice by Tom Taylor. Looking at you.
Injustice is amazing.
It's so good.
But
so the Zack Snyder movies is what we're getting at.
I'm not really a fan of the Snyder aesthetic. But also it's just sort of like, I know that it's easier to write them that way. And the paragons that we have are so few, even among the heroes. And then outside of hero comics, I can think of hardly any, like the Star Trek captains. Like there's not that many that we have in media. So I think they're very important to kind of like, to kind of keep as they are. What about you two? What are your peeves?
I have a lot.
My easy one is like Connor Kent Superboy is queer. Something else. Bruce Wayne and Ghostmaker, his rival, definitely banged when they were teens running around the globe together.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a trend here with mine. Everyone's gay, is my opinion.
Everyone is gay.
Yes.
Gay is
I'll die
that's
on
our
the
agenda.
hill. My rainbow hill.
Yes. I agree to all of that.
Yeah, so many.
Yeah, actually, it's true that I assume that, and all of the heroes that are sort of alien or not,
right,
not human beings, I always assume that they're all just LGBTQ in some way.
Of course.
I just don't. Just on some level, some level, I just assume they're bi or gay or what have you.
100% correct. Yes.
Yeah. Any alien, I'm like polysexual, omnisexual, whatever you want to call it.
Also, immortal.
Anyone
who's lived more than 1,000 years, there's no way they're staying straight that whole time. I don't buy it. I do not buy it.
Hard agree.
Oh yeah, and here's another one that I have. Actually, one of my favorite aspects of Batman is Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
and I often find him to be a bit underutilized. I really love just the idea of like a debauched billionaire who is the Mask, and the kind of damage that could wreak on people that try and have relationships with Bruce, not with Batman. And what does it mean that like Bruce himself can't inhabit his actual human identity with any authenticity at all? And so, but I think like, so I sort of would die on that, like Bruce Wayne is more interesting than Batman.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. That's a good hill. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Like as a character, Bruce Wayne, pretending to be Bruce Wayne, dealing with a lot of dark shit is more interesting than just Batman running around, to me at least. So I see where you're coming from. I like that.
I'm a big fan of all the fanfics that make the Bruce Wayne persona into this like full man whore, and I love it so much. It's exquisite.
Amazing. You may have to give me some recommendations after the podcast.
Oh, you've opened up a can of worms there.
No, you don't know what you've asked for.
Have you? This kind of leads me. I wanted to just ask: have you read the webtoon Batman Wayne Family Adventures?
No, I haven't.
I feel like you'd love it. It's very fanficky. It's like slice of life with Bruce being a dad to all of his adopted Robins and stuff. It's very cute. I think you'd love it.
Yeah.
Wow. It's accessible. The title again. What was it called? Batman. No. What was the title?
Batman Wayne Family Adventures. Wayne, like the last name, Bruce Wayne. And it's on webtoon.
The webtoon app.
Got it.
Yeah.
You will love it. Please, if you read it, let us know what you think, because I think you'll adore it.
Where can our listeners follow you on social media, and do you have any projects to promote?
You can follow me on on Twitter at CSPacat, Instagram c.s.pacat, or my website is cspacat.com. In terms of what's coming up at the moment, Book 2 of Dark Rise has just had its cover reveal, so please go and check that out because I truly believe it is one of the greatest book covers of all time. Just let your eyes feast on that cover. And then in June, Fence returns. So if you are into boys, boarding schools and competitive fencing and slow burn romance, go check that out.
Yeah.
And then I can tease that I'm doing a secret project that's in the works that is also no, it's not DC or fence related, but it is also a kind of a graphic. I can't even say what format it is. It's comic-ish something. Stay tuned.
I will stay tuned.
Oh, I can't wait. That's amazing.
Yes. Oh
well,
my
thank
gosh.
you so much for coming on. This was a blast.
Yeah, Kat, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
So lovely.
Anytime. Give Batman Wayne Family Adventures a read. Let us know what you think, because I know you're going to love it.
I will give you the full book report when I'm done.
Yes.
Well, until next time.
Thank you for listening to the Gotham Outsiders. You can find me, Chris, on Twitter at The Myth of Psyche, where I talk about feminism, psychology, and Batman, of course. But you can also find me on my new show at Thirsty Untoon, over on the Talking Comics feed, where Bronwyn and I review webtoons and drink wine, and also review romance novels. You can also find me writing reviews at talkingcomics.com, and I am now accepting consulting clients. So if you need someone to do sensitivity reading or consult on psychology or queer identity, I'm your person. You can also find my co-host TJ
at Troyfin2 on Twitter, where I talk about books, gay things, gay books, and all sorts of things, including Batman pretty often, way more than I used to. And I recently became an official librarian, so you can find all sorts of book reviews that I post just for fun, a lot of advanced reviews of books that haven't come out yet. So if you're looking for a nice gay read, please hit me up. You could also find me talking on other podcasts just here and there if you search my name on any podcast service provider that you listen to.
And you can find us both talking about Batman all the time at the Gotham Outsiders. So join us next time. Same bat time, same bat place.